What'd you think of Panay's arm the other day?
What arm? Right arm, left arm?
The right arm, the throwing, the practice the other day?
Yeah. There's not much he can't do, I don't think, but I looked over because, we do call it fat and go, whatever you want to call it. All right? I don't know. That's what linemen, right, would say fat and go, right? Instead of pat and go, fat and go. It's to have fun, right? These guys put in a lot of work. And then I was like, where's Panay? And then they were like, Coach, he's throwing the ball. I was like, oh, okay. So it was pretty good. He wasn't 100% though, so we got to work on that accuracy. So, but it was good to see him. We do like to have fun on Fridays and, practice, but then get right once practice starts. It's like, can we get focus back up? So it's fun to see.
As well. Christian Mahogany missed so much time there with battling illness. You get him for 3 weeks of practice kind of in the middle of the fire. What are your goals with a young player during that stretch, and how have you maybe seen him catch up as much as he was able to during these 3 weeks?
I would say this: it's been fun to have him back. It's hard, unless you're in his mind going through it. It's tough, because when he was first back, he can't do nothing but work out, lift, do all that stuff. He's in the meetings, but he's not, going out there to practice, grind with the guys. And now that we've had him back, it's been great to see. He's put a lot of work in. I think Coach Campbell and the guys, Coach Clark and those guys got him ready to go. We were trying to make sure he was ready when he was coming back and get him in, that cardio shape, everything, the strength. And, honestly, watching him come back, it's kind of what you saw in OTAs when you did see him play. You're like, man, he's got something to him. And he's come back hungry and really is fitting well in the room. And it's been exciting to see him, Still, it's just practice, but he's gotten chances to go compete, one-on-ones, everything. And he stayed up on the playbook, which is great to see. And there was no fall off, And we didn't get him in training camp, but like what we saw in the spring, I think we're seeing now, And so it's just a consistent player that has a pretty good football IQ, and you see it showing up in practice, which is great to see.
You guys are no strangers to having to shuffle the offensive line here and there, but just with the 4 guys you've kind of been playing inside, Gilly included. How comfortable are you with the flexibility that you have at those positions right now?
It helps because these guys prepare every day as the starter when you're not the starter. So that helps. And, we have all the confidence in the world of whoever we're putting in there in that room. And especially like a guy like Yodi, we don't flinch. We expect, we don't lower the bar either. We expect that expectations up front to never lower. Doesn't matter who's in there with those guys. You got to raise your expectations. I know this past week wasn't our best performance up front, all that stuff. With all that said, but man, it's next play mentality. Can we keep it going here? And looking forward to this week with whoever's in those lineups.
One player who said had a really good game was Frank. He said maybe one of the best games since you guys have been here. Just at this stage of his career, like what do you see him still getting better at?
There's a lot of things you got to stay on him, make sure he doesn't get a big head and stuff like that. So. But it was good to see. He's had some battles, especially with, not really worried about the past, but Phillips is a really good player in there at nose, Minnesota, and they've been some battles, and I thought he did a good job with Harrison last week. And the mental game, that's where his strength. He's so football IQ smart and locked in and staying focused there. But there's all the little things to stay always on him about, hands, feet, all the good reminders, but he's always reminding himself. And it's the way he practices and works. So it's not a surprise how he can have these games. But it's exciting when he is in there because he is such a he's just such a pro at everything he does, and he can elevate guys around him. He elevates the play, and people can lean on him. And so I love having him in the lineup every week. It doesn't even matter if he's not 100%. When he's even like 80%, he's better than most guys in the league.
But just how much do you appreciate the way Jared's played the last month and watching that?
I mean, he can make us look really good all the time. So he's been playing well. He's been locked in too. He's one of the guys. And you talk about Frank and him, those two got to be on the same page when it comes to all the IDs and all the protections and even the run game. So it's great to see, especially when he's locked in early. It can be a fun game to watch. And, of course, I don't see that normally until after, you see the stats and all that, but he's fun to watch. He's one of the best in the game, and you see why, especially over the last couple of weeks of him, the way he can throw the ball, operate the offense. And Coach Johnson, we put a lot on his plate too, and between those two, man, they're the brain trust out there.
Is it easy to forget that Frank is still dealing with that partially torn pec when he's just blowing guys up?
Yeah, I just don't ever remind him, and I don't tell him you can't use that as an excuse either. So he's great. It's something. It's something to watch. He is a special player. Unfortunately, throughout his career, he's had these nagging injuries, but he just fights through them. And he won't ever. I normally never find out that he is even hurt until normally one of the other teammates tell me. So he kind of keeps it hush. Even if he's banged up, he won't say nothing. I'll be like, "Hey, how you doing?" "I'm good." That's all I get. "I'm good." Even when he did do that to himself in that game, I was like, "You all right?" "Yep, I'm good." I'm like, "You sure?" "Yep, I'm good." "All right." "You playing?" "Yep." That's what I get him. All right. And I trust the guys. If you tell me you can go out there and play and you're playing at a high level, I trust you. Like if you tell me, I don't know, then I think mentally you're kind of checked out because you're worried about that injury, any injury. And I think that's the mentality we have in our room. You tell me you're good to go, I trust you. You him and Hall about it, and like, you're probably not ready, And so I think we have a good understanding what we expect. So if you go out there, you're playing at a high level.
We haven't seen Manu practice for 2 months just with the media restrictions. That's like half of his NFL existence. And so from your perspective, I know he's talked about focusing on maybe one or two things every day. Where have you seen the most growth from him since camp?
He's progressing with the consistency of the play, though, and starting to get more of the big picture, too. When things move, pre-snap, what's happening, where does the call need to adjust? Do I need to adjust? I think the play speed has definitely picked up over time. So the more he gets to see, because he's running show team, a lot of that stuff there versus our defense, and they do a lot. Our defense does a lot, pre-snap movements and all this, pressures. So he's learning on the fly here, and he's playing faster and making calls and stuff. So that's where I think he's progressed a lot more than when you saw in training camp. It was just like, all right, let me get my first couple steps down. Let me see this. Now it's seeing, it adjusts. Here's our adjustment to it without somebody relying on him how to make the calls. So he's gotten better there.
There seems like a guy who keeps a pretty low profile. What have you learned about him just coaching him every day, either on the field or off the field?
I know this. He's the same guy. Doesn't matter in walkthroughs or practice. He's the same guy. He's focused. He's continuing to do his sets, reps mentally on that. And, that same guy, same energy, doesn't matter where it's at, walkthrough. He's a finisher. And that's what I think he's done his whole career. Not being around him in this year is just you're going to get the same guy. Pre-practice, I walk out there, he's working on his sets. He's working on his first steps. He's grabbing Nice and like, hey, Nice, give me a rush here. And this is before anybody's even out there. So that same mentality he brings. And I think that, it helps because when you're a young guy and you're seeing a guy that's 13 years in the league, it's like there's a reason why he's here. There's a reason why he's been playing at the level he is. So taking those little mental sets and reps where it's just like a walkthrough, that's a rep for us in our world.